Thank you very much, everyone. And it's my absolute honour to be here amongst all of you today. I've had the most wonderful day catching up with old friends and making new ones. I didn't realise how many outstanding people were going to be at this conference. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about the topic cross-linguistic perspectives on children's speech development. It's not clicking on. Oh, okay. I was very moved by this morning's welcome, and I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the Macquarie University land, the Watamatagal clan of the Darug Nation, whose cultures and customs have nurtured and continue to nurture this land since Dreamtime. I pay my respects to elders, past, present, and future, and emerging, and I'm very excited about the fact that we are really honouring and thinking about Indigenous languages and cultures this week, and particularly look forward to the day devoted to that on Wednesday. I am actually from Wiradjuri land, and I have taken a photograph right in the centre of town. Wiradjuri land is a beautiful land across the Blue Mountains. You drive past or go on the train past the Three Sisters, keep going to the beautiful fertile land before you get to the desert. We have many kangaroos on campus. I would like to acknowledge my Charles Sturt University team, my speech language multilingualism team. 3 of them are here today. Van, Holly and Kate is somewhere else. Kate's up the back with the other Kate. And I also really acknowledge the very wonderful funding from the Australian Research Council, both for my future fellowship, but also the discovery grants that I have been very fortunate enough to be to receive to undertake important work about young children. I am particularly grateful to Nan and Jay for this invitation. Wow, how special to be the keynote at this conference. And when I actually looked at the diversity, I know the theme of the conference is diversity now, but have you actually looked at the disciplines that are represented amongst you all? Wow, we have diversity in this room. Now put yourself in my shoes. I have to speak to that many disciplines. That's a fairly difficult task. So what did I think I would do? Well, I decided to try and work out how we could connect together and what we might all agree on. Hopefully, my 3 things are going to connect us. But first of all, I just need to say I am a speech language pathologist. That is where I have been working in that space for many, many years. I also need to say, and I'm almost extremely embarrassed to say this in this situation, I am a monolingual English speaker, and the only language I have learned is my local Wiradjuri language. And I have a certificate from TAFE in that. So my job in the world is to actually be a little bit like the United Nations and love you all and think you are all absolutely incredible, so much cleverer than I am, but I am a little bit like a neutral space where people from across the world come and we share language and culture together, and I learn from each one of you. So that's my space, okay? So let's see where we might connect. In 2019, I was very privileged to be part of the Australian government delegation to the United Nations, to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. And we took a special issue of the International Journal of Speech Language Pathology that focused on communication as a human right. It was the year of the 70th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And so we actually took to it Article 19. And I'm figuring this is one point where we all come together. Hopefully we all agree that everyone, I say that word again, everyone has the right to freedom of opinion and expression. This right includes freedom to hold opinions without interference and to seek, receive, and impart information and ideas through any media and regardless of frontiers. So hopefully, with all of our disciplines, we all agree that communication is a human right. And in fact, you may have picked up a flyer like this on the table this morning. We've just done our next special issue focusing on how communication is central to the achievement of every one of the Sustainable Development Goals. Just to let you know, in the corner, I have QR codes. They keep changing. Just about every single QR code is different. So if you quite like something, take a photo of it. I love people in my presentations with your phones out, with your iPads or whatever. Please take photos. I'll tell you, there's one slide I really want you to take a photo of, and it has a big yellow star on it. Okay? So if you have to do an exam at the end, well, you teachers, it's the one with the big yellow star on it. So watch this space. Okay, so one thing that unites us, communication is a human right and is central to the achievement of peace and prosperity for people and the planet. Okay, the second thing that I think unites us is that there are many languages in the world. Do we agree? Yeah. There are actually over 7,000 languages in the world, and anybody from Australia, when they are presenting, comes to you with this background thinking about the country that you have either come to visit or you are living that you live in. In the last census, we have a census every 5 years in Australia. 51.5% of Australians have one or more parent born overseas in a different country. And in the last census, 22.3% said that they speak one of 300 languages other than English at home. One of the reasons that I don't learn a language is because every single census, the top 5 languages in Australia changes. So I do a lot of work in the US, and 12.8% of people in the US speak Spanish as a first language. But in Australia, it changes all the time. So in the last census, we had Punjabi arrive in our top 5 languages for the first time, and Vietnamese is here. But previously, Italian and Greek were in our top 5. So at the moment, the top 5 languages after English in Australia are Mandarin, Putonghua, Arabic, Vietnamese, Cantonese, and Punjabi. So this is one of the reasons that I, as a speech language pathologist, want to really know about a lot of languages, because even in the very small town that I live in with 37,000 people, we have new refugee populations who settle. We have people coming for many different reasons, for education, for employment, and we never know what language they're going to speak. So we need to have capacity and competence across languages. Our unifying statement number 3 is that communication is a key to opening doors. Do you agree? Okay. Talking or signing, because signing and even gesturing, communication, regardless of frontiers, opens doors. It enables us to live our lives, to change our life, and to live fulfilled lives and realize our potential. So, I then thought I would start from this statement from the Council of Australian Governments. One of the commitments of our country is that all children should have the best start in life to create a better future for themselves. And it said, and for our nation, but I wanted in this international audience to say, and for society. So I come with my team from the idea that all children need to have their best start in life and to create a better future for themselves and for society. So today we're going to actually think about how can we best support children's communication. Now, I want you just to think for a second, apart from this lovely person who is here, has anybody else seen a child today? If you've seen a child, put your hand up. That is unbelievable. Okay, so you need to listen to this talk. Okay, those of you who haven't seen a child today, and there are actually some people that may not see many children. Some of you may be grandchildren, grandparents or parents or friends or next door neighbours. Some of you may work with children. Who actually works with children? Okay, not as many. The people who work with children may be asked this question a lot, but the people who see children may open their mouths and be able to speak two or more languages. And what does everybody ask? Should my child be still speaking two languages? Is it good for them? Can they speak 4 languages? Should I limit their languages? What should I do? What should I advise my child? And many of you get asked that question, A, because you can speak a language other than English, but B, because you live in this professional space of one of those multitudinous discipline areas. Is that true? So I'm going to give you some ideas of how to answer that question today. Okay, so one of the things, and I'm just going to give some snapshots. I know there's the most amazing research outside of our team. I'm mostly going to focus on the work of our team. And you can see that we collaborate with so many different people. And down the bottom, I'm a believer in giving you the full reference so that you don't have to go hunting at all. And usually the QR code, this one I didn't manage to get it. But this particular study that we were able to do from the longitudinal study of Australian children, we found that if for infants who are 1 to 2 years of age, if their parents read with them for 11 minutes or more a day, regardless of the languages that they speak, they actually have stronger reading, spelling, and grammar skills in grades 3 and 5. Apparently there was something magic. It's not 10 minutes, it was 11 minutes. So any of you who are parents or grandparents or next door neighbours, read to your children, read to children who are 1 to 2 years of age for 11 minutes or more. And Michelle Brown was a postdoc of mine and has some lovely baby talk work that she has done. We've also, and it was lovely to listen to Kath McMahon, and I have had the privilege to do some work with her at Macquarie Uni and her fantastic team, from the longitudinal study of Indigenous children in Australia. My understanding is this is the largest longitudinal study in the world of Indigenous children, and there is a lot of focus on their languages. One of the studies that we were able to publish with the LSIC team, the Footprints in Time team 10 years ago, was actually titled Celebrating Young Indigenous Australian Children's Speech and Language Competence. It was a beautiful paper to work together, and we looked at the practices of 692 3 to 5-year-olds and then those children at 5 to 7 years of age, and looked at what happened with these children. And these children had really rich language environments. Everyone was talking. Parents, siblings, grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, and teachers were telling and reading stories using language during play, music, craft, shopping, drawing, cooking, and swimming. And in fact, it was swimming where they were more likely to use Indigenous languages with the children than English. It's a really rich data set. And for those of you who are interested in Indigenous languages, anybody is allowed to apply for access to analysing this very rich data set. And I was meeting with the team virtually last Thursday, and they're very keen for people to collaborate with them to look at the language data. There was one little fellow in this study that was speaking 8 languages, and English was one. There's 7 Indigenous languages, and English was one that was quite a way down. So it's a really rich data set. So we know that there are lots and lots and lots of things you can do with all children, okay? I don't need to tell you what to do. Play, talk, sing, read, interact. However, as a speech language pathologist, this group is the group that I predominantly focus on and that drives my work. We also have done work with the longitudinal study of Australian children that is an analysis of their lives for 10,000 children. The database began in 2003. So these children, they had a baby cohort and a kindergarten cohort. So the richness of these 10,000 children and all aspects of their lives have been looked at. We have particularly looked at their speech and language. And in a study that we published back in 2009, it feels like a really long time ago, we identified that 25% of parents of 4 to 5-year-old children were concerned about how their child talks and made speech sounds. Now, we thought 25%, that sounds huge, enormous. But since that time, that level, the 25%, has consistently come through in many studies, including some work that the American Speech Language Hearing Association has done with American children. There's about a quarter of parents who are worried about how their child talks and makes speech sounds. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean they need speech therapy, that they've got problems? What happens with these children? And so we've actually undertaken quite a lot of analysis to look at what happens with these children and who are they. We've used some of our Australian Research Council funding to replicate the LSAC study with another sample of 1,097 children in Sydney. And we found that when we did speech therapy style tests, that 80% of that 25% actually would benefit from speech therapy. They were had clinical reasons that speech therapists could support them. So that converts to 20% of parents of 4 to 5-year-old children could benefit from some additional support, regardless of whether they spoke one language or many. In Sydney, there's a lot of kids who do speak other languages, but that's the group that I really focus on. And that's the group that probably asks you, what should I do with my child in terms of talking to them? So let's have a look at what happens. We've undertaken a lot of studies to look at this cohort and to compare them. And for the statisticians amongst you, we have factored in gender and rurality and socioeconomic status, and you can look at all the stats and the linear mixed models and all of that sort of stuff, Christos. But what we have found is that over a lot of our studies, this one from 2019 has been used by the government a little bit now. The association between communication concern at 4 to 5 years of age impacts educational outcomes in reading, writing, school achievement, teacher-child relationships, and the children themselves indicate they're more likely to be bullied, have poorer peer relationships, and not enjoy school as much. Now, the children do not know that their parents are concerned about their speech and language. They're asked a lot of questions, but when we do the statistics on it, because it's 4,329 children, we can find out and look at how these are related. That's a lot of things that are going on for that 25%. So we do need to think about what we should do with them. And in fact, when we look further at that 25% and do more systematic reviews across the literature, when children don't receive early intervention and whose parents are concerned, there can be long-term consequences on their literacy, their education, socialisation, behaviour, relationships, identity, well-being and employment. So it's worth having an idea of what to do and worth having an idea about who we should be concerned about and do give a little bit of support. But I also want to give you some words, regardless of frontiers, from some of the children, the 4 to 5 year old children that we have worked with in some of our ARC studies. We asked hundreds of children with speech sound disorders to draw themselves talking to someone. Hello, Cap, you missed me talking about you. You had a good plug earlier. Everybody around her agree, okay? This little fellow said, I can't draw myself talking to someone because they don't let me play. Pretty powerful, isn't it? Many of the children talked about how that they would, during the lunch break, they would sit in the library and watch out the window. These are older children, not this group. Watch out the window, other children playing. We need to support these kids when they are young. This little fellow said he liked talking about chocolate frogs with his friend who had a large listening ear. So this is the little fellow with the speech sound disorder, and this is his friend, and he actually talked about his friend had a large listening ear. And a number of these children actually did draw their sisters or friends with large listening ears. I want us all to have large listening ears so children can thrive. So we're going to have some ideas today about how to do that. For children with speech, language and communication needs, there are many evidence-based interventions to support children to thrive. There are many evidence-based interventions in many, many languages across the world. You will be quite surprised, I think, to see that many countries use very sophisticated techniques to determine the evidence for ensuring that they can really support children in their languages. In a moment, I'll talk to you about the Oxford Handbook of Speech Development in Languages of the World that I'm editing. And one of the sections of it, we ask people to talk about which interventions are available in languages such as Azerbaijani or Laki or Peruvian Spanish across the world. So there are many excellent evidence-based interventions. These are just a few that I have been involved in because I really enjoy working with young children with speech sound disorders. And Kate's supervisor, Kate, yes, your supervisor, Elise Baker, collaborates with me, and other colleagues from across the world have collaborated with me. One of the things for those of you who are not used to thinking about what speech language pathologists can do, we're called many different things across the world. So, you know, it's not just that name, is that there's been a lot of evidence to say that children need enough interventions. So for example, James Law and Gina Conti-Ramsden from the UK published in the British Medical Journal in 2000 a report on a randomized controlled trial saying treating children with speech and language impairments, 6 hours of therapy is not enough. And some countries like Australia actually limit the amount of intervention. Our children get 5 free sessions, so they don't even get 6 hours. Sessions can be half an hour or 3/4 of an hour. So it's the same as getting nothing. So that's another day. I'm not going to go there, but contacting with speech therapists and having enough intervention is really important and can change children's life trajectories. So let's go back. Oh, I don't know where that went. Oh, well, here we go. How can I tell if my child has difficulties with communication, and when should I be worried? That's what I want to answer, so that you've got a good answer for your next door neighbour tomorrow, or maybe this afternoon. So, as we know, we've already established this. Ethnologue says there's over 7,000 languages in the world. We're up to the 26th edition of Ethnologue. The number of languages over 7,000 changes a little bit each edition, but it's always over 7,000. There is limited information about communication expectations for children who speak these languages, but I've been collecting it, and we have it in 76 languages and dialects at the moment. We've got a long way to go. 76 is a lot less than 7,000, but it's not bad. Okay. Oh. You know what's, is it me? Okay, what am I doing? Thank you. Okay, all right. Maybe I'm turning it off. I see what I'm doing. Okay. One of the studies that we did with the longitudinal study of Australian children is that we decided to have a look about, was there a difference in 4 quadrants between monolingual and multilingual kids, and, but hang on, no, top and bottom. Monolingual children and multilingual children, kids whose parents were not concerned about their speech and language, and kids whose parents were concerned. Because there has been an assumption, an incorrect assumption, that this bottom group of multilingual children whose parents are concerned have a double disability or a double disadvantage. This study and many others, but this study was with 4,983 children, over time demonstrated that there is absolutely no difference between being monolingual or multilingual. The difference is if parents are concerned or not. So it's exactly the same if you're speaking one or more languages. So there was, in this particular study, there was no association between multilingualism and educational outcomes in Australia at age 8 to 9. Now, I decided to add a slide, so I made sure I came before lunch to put this one in. To say this more simply without any of the stats, all children should be encouraged to speak their home languages. Do not say only speak English if you're in Australia, or if you're in Germany. Do not say only speak German, or if you're in Vietnam, do not say only speak Vietnamese. All children, regardless of even if they use alternative and augmentative communication devices, if they are signing in Arabic, in English, and speaking in Arabic and English, they can. And it's important that all children can, regardless of their communicative capacity. So that's the first thing. We in this room know that multilingualism is a superpower. And this afternoon, after this keynote and after afternoon tea, our team has their capes that got sent around to all the children during COVID lockdown, along with their packs of all the different resources and books to support multilingualism as a superpower. And Kate and Van, please wave. You are up here being online. And in fact, our work has been, oh, there's Van's cape. Kate, get your cape out. Kate's got her yellow cape too. There we go. Now, we did such quality work. Van, this is the slide I wanted you to look at. Oh, come on. So, Van actually just last week, I think it was was actually awarded the Australian Linguistic Society Michael Klein Prize for the best thesis in Australia, with a focus on some aspect of immigrant bilingualism and language contact. Yay, Van! Very proud, very proud. So I'm just going to go back. We have a workshop at 3:45 this afternoon in one of the rooms. You can find it. I think it's stream 8 or something. But we have a lot of free resources for any families on Vietnamese. We have a lot of cards. We've got a new workbook that literally came up this morning that's over 100 pages that you can do with kids. We've also got a parent workbook, bilingual in Vietnamese and English, that we're very interested. It's about why should you speak 2 languages, you know, why bother? Or what's, you know, because it's hard work in Australia with all these different languages and things. It's really hard work maintaining the home language, the parents tell us. So why do it? And so we've got this really nice workbook that our team, including Audrey, who's a psychologist, many linguists and speech pathologists have all worked together, and educators have all worked together to develop these resources. And we developed the book for the parents in a way that could be translated into lots of other languages. So please contact us if you're interested. Anyway, one more go look at Van for a second. Okay, so Van, did you get the photo for your husband? Here we go. Just take it, quick. Oh, Holly, you took it. Excellent. Thanks, Holly. Okay, great team. All right, so how can I tell if my child, now I'm adding a bit, who speaks more than one language, has difficulties with communication? How can I tell? Right? People talk about the silent period, and so often speech language pathologists across the world either say that they saw a child way too young and they were doing just fine, or this child was in high school or 10 or 11 and they really needed to see them when they were 3. So how do we know whether to be worried or not? Well, I've got a good answer for you. All right. We have done lots of work, but I'm just going to talk about 3 reviews that we have done. First review is about consonant acquisition of 26,007 children speaking 27 languages. The second review was because our colleagues in the US said, well, I don't think that refers to us. So they asked us to review just for the US. So we did that too. And then we also have looked at just over 4,000 children speaking 14 languages and considering their intelligibility. Now, there are marvelous studies being done, like Kate, not my Kate, the other Kate, wave, who spoke this morning about work on vocabulary, right? She's the one that knows about language. I'm the one that knows about speech, okay? So I'm talking to you about speech because very often you guys talk about language and you're less likely to talk about speech sounds and speech production, but often families notice that their child is a bit unintelligible and has trouble with speech before they get into the language stuff. So I'm just going to focus on speech for now. All right. Here's the slide. Here's the answer. If you want to take a photo and give it to your next door neighbour, your grandchildren, your children, your aunts, uncles, anybody, this is your slide, okay? All right, I'm bringing it back. So if you haven't got your device ready, it comes at the end. If you need to go to sleep now, you're very welcome. If you've got jet lag, just pay attention to what this says, all right? This is the answer. By 4 to 5 years of age, children are excellent communicators in their home language. In fact, they're excellent before that, but 4 to 5 years of age is often a time that parents across the entire world start thinking about children getting ready for formal schooling. So there's a real peak in speech-language pathologists' caseloads, with parents being concerned at 4 to 5. It's an excellent age. We like to see kids younger than that, but 4 is good because you've got at least a year or 2 before they go to school. So we love them at 4, all right? Love them at 4. Almost all of our studies have been with 4 to 5-year-old children. 4 to 5-year-old children can be understood by everyone, even strangers, okay? So everyone can understand 4 to 5-year-old children speaking. They can correctly pronounce almost every consonant. And I've got information about all the, well, 76 languages and dialects. So you can see that there's only a small group of fricatives and R, the different R's in our languages that children have difficulty with. Vowels and tones are learned very, very, very young. Children do not have trouble with tones unless it's kind of just learning the tone. Oh, I have dreadful trouble with Vietnamese tones, oh my goodness. But young children, when it's in their environment to learn, should not be having trouble with tones that are in the dialect that they are learning. And 4 to 5-year-old children can understand and produce sentences, stories, and conversation. Okay, so if this is not happening, whoever is there with professional support, get them to see them. You can change their lives. You can actually enable these children to be successful at school, because when you arrive at school, you need to not only have speech and language ready to learn to read, spell, and even mathematics requires language. Bob had 3 apples, John had 2 apples. How many apples did he have? There's actually a lot of words and only 2 numbers in that, right? Language is everywhere at school, but particularly in the playground. Remember our little boy? Nobody would let them play. We need to make sure that kids can play at lunchtime. Seek support that has evidence early. All right, let me now prove to you about these studies. So I'm going to talk to you about, sorry, I'll just go back because I was a bit quick. Review number 1, I'll just give you the background of why I feel so confident in these results. So my colleague Kate Crowe and Kate is currently in Iceland. I'm about to visit her, hopping on a plane on Friday to go to Salzburg and then see Kate. We wrote this paper called Children's Consonant Acquisition in 27 Languages, a Cross-linguistic Review, and I'm very proud to say that we won the Editor's Award that year for the American Journal of Speech Language Pathology. There's 222,000 members of ASHA, 222,000. So it was a great honour to win the one Editor's Award for this journal. We undertook a very complex review of 13 databases, but actually one of the most useful ways that I found literature was actually by my future fellowship, going around the world and talking with people. Thank you very much. We looked at 27 languages, and these are they, and you can see that they are very, very diverse. Xhosa, 3 studies in Xhosa, 3 in Turkish, 1 in Swahili, 4 in Spanish, 1 in Slovenian, 1 in Setswana, and 1 in Putonghua Mandarin. You know, really diverse languages. This is the slide for those who's the phonetics nerds amongst you. Yay, enjoy, Robert. This shows you that at age 3 years 11, at 75 to 80% for pulmonic and non-pulmonic, that's the clicks. That's the age of acquisition. So basically 75 to 85% of kids are getting all, whatever sounds are in their language by that age. And by 90%, it's for 90% accuracy at 4, 411. Pretty amazing. This is what it looks like over a chart. So there's not a dramatic leap, but there is actually just a little group at the end of phonemes that are just a little bit more tricky for kids across the globe. Here is the percentage of consonants correct across the 27 languages. And you can see by 4 years of age, oh, there we go. Dear me. Sorry, I cut my thumb, and clearly my thumb and my Band-Aid is having fun with this. Sorry about this. Okay, I'll just go back. Okay, by 4 to 5 years of age, here we go. I'm very sorry. Okay, by 4 to 5 years of age, 92% of consonants are correct at 4, 93 at 5 across all the languages that were studied. We've actually, for English, come up with little infographics that have been downloaded thousands and thousands and thousands of times as posters or as little handouts to parents. You can download these for free if you're interested in English. We were asked to have flowers, we were asked to have outer space, so our graphic designers have been fabulous at making this data available to show the age of acquisition of English consonants. But basically, we found that the only consonants that were not acquired by 5-0, but were acquired either in their 5th or 6th year were zh, and the 2 th sounds. That was it for English. For anybody who wants to undertake a study, because Kate and I looked at so many studies, because there was a lot of studies that did not make the eligibility criteria as well, we have Appendix C, where we have advice for people when you're undertaking a study of children's speech acquisition of a new language that hasn't been studied before. Appendix C has a bit of a checklist of what to include, so you're very welcome to use that too. We were contacted by the team at Cornell University, Morten Christensen and his team, and they actually accessed all of our data. And next week at the CogSci conference in Sydney, they are presenting these data. So this is the first time where they completely reanalyzed all our data set and found that age of acquisition was influenced by frequency and complexity of consonants across the case studies that we're presenting at CogSci are English, Spanish, Japanese, and Korean. So that was nice too. This particular study broke the speech language pathology internet, and so we were asked to reanalyze it for the people in America, because they said we didn't use, thank you, enough of their data, because a lot of the American data is you have to buy the assessment. The data is in that assessment manual rather than freely available as a book chapter or a journal article. So we actually bought the assessment so we could analyze the data, but we found exactly the same results across the studies of 18,900 children. So we found similarly the acquisition was gradual, and so now we've come up similarly the same consonants and the 2 ths were the later ones. So now we have an American version and a rest of the world version. Okay, so if you're American here, yes, we love you. Here you go, you have your own, and here's the rest of us. And you can see that the only thing is that Americans had a few more at 2, but that was probably because most of these studies had 2-year-olds as the youngest children, whereas a lot of these studies had 3-year-olds as the youngest children. So I'm not sure that that's actually, I know Americans, you are very clever. And it may be that you are very clever, but we don't know for sure yet, okay? I have many dear friends from America. Americans, do you want to just wave? Okay. And of course, we did them all, and the Americans have their flag in the treehouse and so forth. So you can download them all for free too. And then we did the intelligibility and context scale. This is a free measure that has been developed. It's a very simple measure. It's available in over 70 languages now on our multilingual children's speech website. And I'm just reducing the time for questions. I'm just going to keep going for a tiny bit more. And you can see that we have it translated with colleagues across the world, and everybody who's interacted with me, their names are on everything, right? I don't ever steal anything. It's all about the amazing brains trust of the entire world. And so you can see here, this one is in Arabic, and you can see that it goes the opposite side. And this one is in simplified Chinese for people speaking Putonghua Mandarin versus Cantonese in Hong Kong. So there's different Chinese writing. I'm not sure if you all know that. We analysed the studies that have been undertaken with the intelligibility and context scale, 18 studies of over 4,000 children. And the answer is that we found across all of those languages, 4 to 5-year-old children are usually to always intelligible when talking to others, even strangers. Okay, so here it is again, the summary slide in case you didn't get the photo last time. 4 to 5-year-old children are excellent communicators in their home languages. The Multilingual Children's Speech website has the original links to all the studies, so you can click on, like the first one is a Afrikaans PhD of over 900 children's speech written in Afrikaans. So all the data that we have been able to source, we've got the link so that you can download it on that website. And this week, we should have our new multilingual speech acquisition paper on bilingual Vietnamese English-speaking children and adult family members. They had hoped that it would be out today, but it's America, so today is like probably tonight. So that will happen very, very soon. And the Oxford Handbook of Speech Development in Languages of the World has 80 chapters. If you're interested in getting some information about the work of these amazing 216 authors, and Robert is one of them from Cardiff. In fact, he's involved in 2 chapters. That QR code just lets you, and it just goes to me, right? And I will share that with Oxford University Press to send you a flyer about when the data is available. It's a little bit behind because I've just had a bit of a cancer journey and it has slowed me down. But the doctors 2 weeks ago said I'm fabulous. So yay, I'm great. And off we go again. Thank you. Doctors are amazing. So we have lots of other ways that we talk with children and how we support monolingual English-speaking people like me to work with children and families across the world who are incredible, clever, and speak many languages. So we've done a lot of this work. There's incredible resources in so many languages because Australia is a great place to get language data from because we never know which is going to be our favourite language in our next census. So we are very multilingual. Thank you so much for listening to thinking about making sure all children have the best start. And I'm going to finish with reading this from 1929. This gentleman helped found the Declaration of the Rights of Children, the Convention on the Rights of the Child, sorry. Children are not the people of tomorrow. They are the people of today. They have the right to be taken seriously, to be treated with tenderness and respect. They should be allowed to grow into whoever they were meant to be. The unknown person inside of each of them is our hope for the future. Thank you very much.